This is Dateline News and Conversation. My guest tonight is Dragana Trifcovic. She's from Serbia, and we are going to talk about a topic that not many people are aware of, and hopefully we'll become aware of this really soon. It's the deep and pervasive influence of the United States on countries around the world. But tonight we'll focus on her home country of Serbia. Dragana, welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much, dear Regis. It's my pleasure.
Well, first of all, to remind our viewing audience a little bit about your background, your education, and the work that you are doing today.
Yes. I finished Belgrade University, and my education is based on engineering and security as well. So I lead the Center for Geostrategic Studies in Serbia, and we are researching about geopolitics, about policy, about security, economy, and psychology, and many other topics. So we have different experts in our center, not only from Serbia, it's Serbian center, but we have experts from too many countries, from different countries, from European, African, Middle East countries, from US as well, Russia. So we work close together, and I think in this world which is changing very fast, it is more than important to speak with different people from different countries, and we need to speak and to find good solutions for all of us.
Well, I also want to mention that you are a member of Friends of Crimea, correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and that's where I met you last year at the conference that we had in Moscow. And I was very intrigued by the work that you're doing. Now, Patrick Popel is a very good friend of yours, and is a good friend of mine now too. He's a member of Friends of Crimea, but he initiated a new program or movement. I'm not sure what to call it. It's called Leaving the American Sector. Can you show his little card that you have with you?
Yes.
There it is.
Here
Now,
it is. With
there it is. So,
Patrick's picture in the. Yes.
yeah, Patrick has organized a conference that you and I both took part in with several other people from different countries in Western Eastern Europe, even a woman from Armenia. But before we get into the topic of the deep and pervasive influence of the United States in Serbia, what is this Leaving the American Sector all about?
It's a very good project by Patrick Popel. He is also the co-operator in Center for Geostrategic Studies, so we support very much his project. As you know, this table was between East and West Germany in the time when this city, the city of Berlin, was separated, and when it was able to see this table with you are leaving the American sector when you was leaving this American sector. So Patrick Popel project is very good because it's reminding all of us that American sector still exists. As you know, we have this occupied army in the Germany, not only in Berlin. We have this very big military base, Ramstein, in Germany. Of course, we have a lot of American military bases all over the world. But this reminds us that Europe is occupied, and as you said, the Serbia as well. The Serbia is under big influence of United States. So our idea and the idea of Patrick Popel's project is to we want that other people also understand this American influence in the Europe and the role of this influence in the many countries in Europe and in different countries as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned one word that's very important, and that was occupation. And that's exactly what the United States is doing with its military and its state departments, its embassies all over the world. It's really an occupation. And because of that presence, the United States is able to exert tremendous influence on these countries. Now, the conference that you and I participated in last week online was specifically addressing the, I call it, deep and pervasive influence of the United States in different countries of the people who were participating. There were people from, you from Serbia, Germany, Patrick from Austria, somebody from Poland, the woman from Armenia. I may be forgetting a man from Russia.
Lebanon.
And Lebanon, yes. Yeah. And all of you were talking about how the United States was influencing your countries. What I'd like to focus on tonight is, how is the United States influencing your country, Serbia? It's not just with weapons and military presence, but how else?
Well, we can say that we have this American influence in all fields. It's cultural influence, it's economic influence, it's education as well, military that you already mentioned. So I will start with this, that Serbia was once a part of big Yugoslavia, the one of the biggest countries in Europe in the past, and the Serbia was the one who created this country, Yugoslavia, after First World War. But after Second World War, this country, which was the monarchy, became the socialist or communist country after the Second World War. And we have under cover of the Second World War, we have the civil war between monarchists and communists. So that was one of the biggest tragedies in our society. And I think till today we didn't finish this confusion and this conflict between these monarchists and communists, and this was the war between Serbs with different ideologies. So what is important, we are talking about American influence. Exactly, I think the most important moment was the Second World War, because after the Second World War, as I said, Yugoslavia became a communist or socialist country. But I think the Yugoslavia was the part of the Western world. No matter that immediately when you said the social or the communist country, socialist country, someone will tell you that it's connected to East, or Eastern countries or Eastern ideologies, or Russia or Soviet Union, but I think we were on the under big influence of United States after the Second World War. As you know, our leader was the Josip Broz Tito, who was the communist, and he basically was from Croatia. So the Serbia, as the one of the Yugoslav republics, was under big influence of Croatian political structures. The leader was the Tito, and the U.S. and we cannot say only U.S. influence. We can mention also the British influence and maybe German and French influence, but it's Western influence. There was a myth that Tito was the agent of Stalin in the Second World War, but I think that wasn't true, because in the 48 the Tito said no to Stalin and to Soviet Union, and practically he closed the relations between Soviet Union and Yugoslavia at that time. And also it is very important to mention that you can find in the archives of in the National Archives of United States that Tito was very good for US because his influence on the Eastern European countries was good for the US. He kept these countries close to US and separated these countries from the influence of Soviet Union. So there was also the myth that Yugoslavia was a neutral country, and from about this movement of independence in that time. But as I said, I think it was also everything was also under big influence from United States. And what is also good to mention, we, as you know, we have been bombed in the 1401 by Hitler. That it was April 6th when bombing of Serbia or former Yugoslavia started in Second World War. But in 44 we was bombed by our allies, by US and Great Britain as well, and it was biggest it was biggest disaster. Even this bombing was more harmful than this Hitler's bombing. And after this, in 1999, we had the NATO bombing. And what is also very important to mention, in the time of Yugoslavia, as I was born in Yugoslavia, we had also very big influence. When I was young, I watched American movies and I listened to American music. The Guns N' Roses was my favorite group from that time. So this big cultural influence exists also in Yugoslavia in that time. And in the 90s, after the fall of Berlin Wall, as you know, we had war in the former Yugoslavia. The composition of this country started in 90s, and I think it was very supported by foreign powers, Western powers. So we had a very bloody war in the Croatia. We have this ethnic cleansing of Serbs in Croatia. And Bosnia and Herzegovina as well. And after this all, we had the war in Kosovo and Metohija and the bombing of Serbia in 99. So these very bad processes didn't start till now, because we have this um, maybe we can say political conflict which is continuing, and the idea to separate the Kosovo and Metohija, which is Serbian autonomy region, to separate from Serbia. So we still have this. These conflicts didn't finish, and I think the base idea for starting these wars and conflict, um, as you remember, we had in the 93, I think, published this Huntington book, The Clash of Civilization. So I think this war in Yugoslavia was, I can say, first step or first example of this clash of civilizations, when they tried these conflicts on different ethnic groups, on different religion groups which exist in Yugoslavia, between Catholic Croatians and Muslim Bosnians and Orthodox Serbs. So this was this first mission of this project, so-called project, The Clash of Civilizations. And I think it was just the beginning, and everything was preparing for the Russia, because they want the same scenario for Russia. And something was happening in the 90s, the war in Chechnya, in Caucasus. That was maybe the same scenario, but the good was that that war finished. President Putin, when he came on power, he stopped this war on Chechnya, and then we had now the different processes in Russia, but idea of separating the Yugoslavia on small countries, which is easy to control outside. That was, I think, the same idea and the same plan for Russia as well.
Let me ask you some specific examples. So we're talking about this deep and pervasive influence of the United States on Serbia. How do they do it in terms of your culture? What do they do? What are the different methods or means that they use to influence your culture?
So the one is that we have a lot of influence. We have a lot of films and TV programs from US, and I will not say that it's not good, because there was and there are good things as well, good music from US, but we have also a promotion of violence, for example, in the films and the program, which is not good, I think. And in the last time, we have a lot of this LGBT propaganda in the TV movies and TV series and everywhere. And it's we don't like this so much, because in Serbia we have traditional society, and the other hand we have these tendencies to discredit our values, like religion values and cultural values, tradition, and to show this is something not good for us, not enough good for us. There are better things like materialism, like expensive cars, and I don't these global trends, we can say. So they're trying to to show to Serbian people that tradition and history it's not so important in these times, and maybe it's not good for us. I think this is the point.
So, would you describe that as a Western liberal progressive ideology that they are trying to spread in your country?
Yes, we can say this is the Western liberal ideology, which is very present not only in my country, everywhere. It's a global trend last decades, we can say, after the fall of this Soviet Union, and when we had the different opinions, and after this we have this monopolar world led by United States, and the big influence of this liberalism, globalism, on whatever we can say or call this influence. And also, when I analyze this situation, for example, in different countries and in the United States as well, when I read recently the book of Mr. Paul Craig Roberts, Empire of Lies, I find out there a lot of things that we have as well in Serbia, like a lot of trends. But it means that is basically from United States, like some bad influences in the security structures, in state security structures. So I can say that we have also deep state in our country, like you have, and probably there is a similar problem everywhere, especially in European countries, which are under big influence of United States, and they reflect their model on the countries which are controlling, or which they are spreading their influence.
Yeah. The same thing is happening in the United States. Uh, I don't recognize my country anymore. It's not the country that I thought I grew up in, 70 years ago. I don't recognize any of it anymore. There's been an attack on basic human values. There's been an attack on religion. Uh, there's been an attack on the family. There's been an attack on different races, uh, different people from different countries. Um, there's been an attack on the government, which is not a government anymore. It's a war cabal, and they are behind all of this. Um, and the one thing that I like to bring out here, because I think it's very important. I think there's only one person, leader in the world, that is calling out this Western liberal, he called it Satanic ideology, and that is Vladimir Putin.
Yes, we certainly can call this satanic ideology, or as you said, world cabala. And I was very surprised when I heard these words from Tulsi Gabbard, for example. She was in the Democratic Party, and I think at very high positions. And I was very surprised when she openly said, "I don't want to be anymore the part of the Democratic Party, because it's the party of." Or which is supporting the world Kabbalah, something. She said something like this, and I was
Yeah.
very surprised. And that is the main problem, that all this ideology is against human values. So that is the main problem. All the system is against humans, and we now have institutions, also in Serbia, institutions which are formed to serve to people. And we have totally different situation that structures, that institutions are working against the people, against the people's rights, against the freedom, against everything, against tradition, history, values. And we have these political elites and also intellectual elites very separated from people. Also, we have these tendencies in church, which I think was creating. It's not like we need to ask how we get in that situation, that we don't feel anymore institutions of state like our own institution and the church as well. So I think it was also the base is this influence, which is the ideology is based on anti-human values. This is most important to mention.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And it's happening in the United States as well. So the question that comes to mind is, if this same phenomenon is happening in the United States, that is happening in other countries around the world, who is it that's really behind it? Do you have any idea?
Who is behind this? Yes.
Yeah. I mean, when we say the influence of the United States, but this same problem, divide and conquer, is happening and has been happening in the United States for many years now. So
Yes.
who's behind it? Is it Hillary Clinton? Is it Bill Clinton? Is it the Bush family? Is it Obama? Is it Joe Biden? Or is it somebody else or something else?
I think these people who you mentioned are surely in this network. I think it's network. We can call this network deep state, but it's a global deep state because they have their delegates as well. Not only in U.S. Congress or Senate, they have these delegates in the Serbian parliament or German parliament or everywhere. So we can call it world cabala or the deep state or the global network of political structures, political so-called elites. But it's definitely not only the United States. The United States was, I will say, the base for these structures. And but it is also important to mention that we can say now revolution against these global structures also started in United States, because we need to remember the Snowden who exposed this, what is the US government doing, that it's US government is illegal collecting the data and informations of US citizens and so on. So we have also this moment that revolution against this started in United States, and it's also important to mention the Julian Assange as well, who imposed this the crimes of American army in Iraq, for example. And it's also, I think, obvious now that the US government and other institutions are not working for the interests of citizens, American citizens. They are also not under control of people there. And I think it was also creating, maybe we have these tendencies. They started maybe, I think so, after the Second World War. And I listened to your yesterday's interview. It was very interesting to speak about this. And I wrote you that I read the book. I think the name is American Nazi Secret by John Loftus a long time ago. And then I realized that this wrong tendency started after the Second World War, when America imported these Nazis, not only the militaries, but also the scientists and different people, and they use the knowledge against the SSSR, I think, in the first, but also against different countries. And we have now this culmination of this policy and this wrong ideology, I think.
Yeah, sometimes it's referred to as the Fourth Reich. Um, that the Third Reich never died; it just
Yes.
got reincarnated in the United States. Um, I want to move on to another area and ask your opinion about this, where the U.S., and I think we need to broaden that now. Um, it's this deep state, it's this cabal, it's this global elite people who are behind it all. But it is the United States as a country that is enforcing it all or implementing it all. So I know in the United States, uh, education from the top to the bottom has been radically reformed and liberalized. Uh, and in the United States, they've used money and they've used political pressure and the threat of firing if professors and teachers didn't teach what they were told. This new standard curriculum. How, how has this happened in Serbia? How have they influenced the educational system, the professors in your country?
Yes, we have the same problem in Serbia, and we have a big reforms after the color revolution in Serbia, which was in the 2000. It was first color revolution. It was October 5th, and after this, the so-called democratic reforms started in the Serbia and in the education as well. So we signed this Bologna Declaration, and we started to reform our educational system on this base of this Bologna Convention. And today I can say that I finished my basic school and second school in the time of former Yugoslavia. And also I finished my basic faculty before these reforms. And I think we had the biggest level of knowledge with this old system. And now the differences is that the students are finishing in the time their faculties and schools, but they don't have too much knowledge. This is the base problem. The level of knowledge now it's not satisfied at all, I will say. And we had also these tendencies in different countries in Eastern Europe, for especially in Eastern Europe, in Bulgaria as well. And we had in Russia as well these tendencies, but now they decided to stop this Bonn Convention and work with this program. And I think it's very good and it's very important for Russia. And the second problem was that the private faculties were opened in Serbia. And literally everyone was able to finish and to have this private education. only was important to pay the money, and we had a lot of these private faculties we have till now. I will not say that everyone are wrong, but the problem is that everyone can finish, and there is a big corruption as well in the state faculty as well as the private faculties. We also have some new American faculties, for example, for East for East Europe. The most important was this one in Bulgaria, American University in Bulgaria, and not only that it was American institution, American faculty, but under control of Soros. I think it's very important to mention the role of Soros in educational system. And what was the idea? They create new elites. They educated new elites. They gave this opportunity to finish the different schools in Serbia, and then to go in different country for specialization or something like this. They have free education and specializations, but I think for them it was necessary not only to learn what these faculties wants and what you said, what they want us to learn. It's not only about the science. I mean, if you learn history, maybe you will learn falsified history, but it was also important to learn the codex, what you need to wear, what kind of clothes, how you can act, what is important to say, what is forbidden to say. That was the part of this education. So they create totally new elites, and after they finish their schools or masters or other degrees, they get the job especially in the state institution, and they promote their careers. They were supported by Soros, by different NGOs, American NGOs like NED, like ERI, Republican Institute, and the Democratic Institute. They were supported, and the idea was to bring this kind of experts in the very important, to bring them on power, and to it was necessary for these structures to have them working in very important places, in parliament, in government. So we have now in Serbia our prime minister. She is a lady, but untraditional, with untraditional sexual orientation, and she worked for American NGO. She finished. She's faculty in United States, and also we have a lot of ministry with the same biography. And that is how they create this base for influence, this network, and we have this kind of network everywhere. And the most important influence was in this humanitarian faculties, like the Faculty of Political Science, security, and so on. And in the technical field is a little bit different. It's a little bit different. We don't have so much this kind of influence by Soros and different NGOs. But in this humanitarian field, we have a lot of problems, and basically our faculties are under big influence. It means you can act different, you can speak what they don't like, but in that case you will be totally marginalized. You will not have any opportunity to develop your career. You will not be able to work in any important structures of state structures for especially, and even you will not have opportunity to be in the political party. I was in political party. It was Democratic Party of Serbia, but I was too pro-Russian for them, so they literally forbid me to be in the political party and to be to work somewhere in the political structures or state structures. So this is the result of I was free to speak what I want and what I think, but it's forbidden.
Yeah, it's no secret that the United States higher educational system has been attracting tens of thousands of foreign students
Yes.
to be immersed in 4-year programs, and they can go to all kinds of universities everywhere, but the ones that will be more influential when they return home seem to be educated at Harvard, at Yale, at Fordham University, and in the California universities, Berkeley and Stanford. And so they get this incredibly liberal Western education that has dumbed down not only American population, but it's turning these foreigners who return to their countries into these operatives where they, as you were mentioning, they affect all areas of society, every ministry, every department. So when I use the words pervasive and deep, this is an example of how pervasive and deep it is. Now, let's talk a little bit about how the United States influences Serbia with its military. It's not just the presence there. How else do they influence your country militarily?
Oh, the influence is very big in the police structures and in military as well. We have the one of the biggest military bases for ground army, and it's the biggest in Europe for ground army, and this Ramstein is air base. So we have this bone steel on territory of occupied region, Kosovo and Metohija. And exactly we don't know what they are doing there. They are training this Kosovo army. They created this Kosovo army no matter that we have this resolution 1244 UN Security Council resolution, and it's forbidden to create the Kosovo army because they didn't finish this independence Kosovo project. And no matter that, they ignore the international law, and then they create this Kosovo army with these, I will say, these formal terrorist structures from so-called Freedom Army of Kosovo, which was the terrorist organization. And this terrorist organization, it's important to mention, was on the terrorist lists of United States. And then Bill Clinton decided that he needs these structures for his goals to open probably this military base and to control the Balkans. And then they erased this Kosovo liberated army from the list of terrorist organizations in United States, and they start to cooperate with them. We have now the American embassy in Belgrade, Christopher Hill. is his name. And in that time, in 90s, he was a very good friend with these Kosovo Liberated Army terrorists. And he is now pushing and trying to finish this project of Kosovo independence. So I said we don't know what they are doing. It's a big military base. They don't have too much army on ground now, as I know, maybe 5,000, and it's designed for 50,000 soldiers. But this what I know, they trained some people, and some people from Kosovo work there in Bostil base. And after this, they went to Iraq and Syria, and they fight in these structures of Islamic State. So it means maybe they're training in this military base, still the people for terrorist structures, for different terrorist structures. And there is a big connection with this Islamic radicalism and this US policy everywhere. I followed this from the time of the war in Yugoslavia. The first Mujaheddins from Afghanistan came with influence of US and Great Britain in the territory of former Yugoslavia, exactly in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And they formed this unity of foreign fighters, Islamic extremists, in Bosnia and Herzegovina, which fight it with regular Bosnian army against Serbs. This is the one example. And the second example was with Kosovo. And this we had this cooperation with Al-Qaeda and this Kosovo Liberation, so-called Kosovo Liberation Army. Bin Laden was there. He met with these Kosovo leaders before the war. I think this was also supported by United States. And you can follow till today these extremists from Bosnia through Kosovo. They finish after this in the Islamic State in the Syria and in Iraq as well. And the biggest number of these foreign fighters from Balkans in the Islamic States were from Kosovo in first place, and second, Bosnia. So this can be one role of this military base in the occupied territory of Kosovo and Metohija. Secondly, we have this cooperation between the Serbian army and Ohio army. This is called strategic cooperation between Ohio army and Serbian army. They have training together, and they have different projects. But what is the problem? The problem is that the people in Serbia don't like too much American army because we have been bombed in 1990. It was NATO, of course, but led by United States. And from that time, the United States are not too much popular in the Serbia, between Serbian people, but it's popular between these Serbian elites because everything what they have in their own life is because of US and the support from US or these global structures, we can say. So we have this problem. We have elites which are connected with United States, and we have regular people who are against the cooperation with NATO, with United States. But of course, our political elites are ignoring the will of regular people. Probably this is democracy, and they don't care at all. So they sign a lot of agreements with American army, especially with Ohio, and with NATO as well. So we have this SOFA agreement with NATO. We have also this EPAP. This is implementing plan for cooperation with NATO. It is the biggest level of cooperation with NATO for one country which is not the part of the NATO. And this is all against the will of citizens of Serbia. And suddenly, the Serbian doctrine was so-called neutrality, but I cannot say that we are neutral because we have much bigger influence, Western influence. But in that time, we have this cooperation with Russian army as well, and we have some common trainings and so on, practicals. But suddenly they decided to stop this training with Russian army. I think it was because US asked from Serbian government to stop this. It was, I think, in the 2019 or 20, in the time of Corona. And now, suddenly, we have a new exercises with NATO, Platin Walk, in June in Serbia. So it means they stopped these trainings with Russian army and continued only with NATO and US army. And now our government is under big pressure to impose the sanctions on Russia and to fully became the part of Euro-Atlantic structures. And I can say that more than or 85% of people in Serbia is against this. But the problem is no one is asking the people in Serbia what you want. They have their own political agenda and they are working, not asking people what you want.
Well, I think we can see that all across Western and Eastern Europe. We can see it in America, that's for sure. What you're describing is describing what's happening in American society. It's obvious that the government does not represent the needs and the will of the people. So the same things are happening. Let's finish with this thought. Economically, how does the United States influence the economy in Serbia?
Oh, it's a very important story. Thank you for asking this. The model was the very similar, or we can say the same model, like they destroyed the Soviet economy. That was the same way, like they destroyed the Yugoslav economy. We had the sanctions started from 90s in the time of war in Yugoslavia, and these sanctions very much harmed the industry and practically destroyed the economy of Yugoslavia and Serbia as well from this time. And after this, we had this so-called transition. It's also the same model, economical shock, like in Soviet Union. We sold all our properties, our big industry, our corporations, or sold or destroyed. They were all sold or destroyed. And also they destroyed the domestic banks. I think more than 90% of banks are Western banks now in Serbia. We don't have any domestic banks. And the main idea is to cooperate with European Union because we are the state candidate for European Union. But the problem is that in that model, we are destroying our domestic economy. For example, our budget for this production, for example, for food is around 2% of budget. And in the same time, the European Union support their own producers by around 40%. So our producers cannot be promoted in this model, and they were destroyed. So once the Serbia and Yugoslavia, former Yugoslavia, was produced the planes and computers and weapons and food, of course, and everything. And now what we are doing, or what is our government doing, they are giving the money from our budget to foreign companies, but not Russian companies. It's not allowed for Russian companies, only for Western companies, for example, to Austrian or German companies or Italian companies to open the industry in Belgrade, in Serbia, in the Serbian cities, and they get the money for this. And for every employer, they have also around 10,000 euros. And there was, I think, it's not only few examples. There was too many examples that these foreign companies, Western companies, came, took the money, open something when they to get the money, and then they close everything and finish, because they don't need they don't have idea to build our economy, or to help our people to work. The idea is only to get the money, to have the money. And of course, the problem is that we have our own gods, like for example, like gold, but we sell our gold to different powers, like we also have cooperation with China, or different European countries or US, and they are just using our gods. It was the same model, I will say, like in the SSSR. And now Russia is nationalizing the industry, which is very good and very important for the future of this country. Because if you don't control two things, if you don't control military and you don't control economy, or you don't have your own military or economy, then you don't have the country, the state at all. So this is the biggest problem for us. And these companies, European companies, Western companies, they have very good conditions here to work, and the payment is misery, I will say. They are paying maybe 200 to 500 euros for employers a month, which is nothing. You cannot live for this money. And of course, they have support from our own budget. And the main question is why we cannot produce juice, for example, or food, because we produced this in the past, and now we need to pay for German companies to come to Serbia and to produce and to sell to us as well. So this the economy is one of the biggest problems. So it means the main productor to change something in Serbia is to or to get back our sovereignty, is to finish new reforms in military and economy field.
You know, what it's looking like to me is this is an agenda that is being driven by, I think, a very, very small group of very wealthy people who are, they're not known. They have names and they're real, but they're behind the scenes, behind the curtain.
Yes.
And it seems to me that the only one that is resisting this, and you've mentioned Russia several times, is President Putin, and Russia are pushing back against this agenda to divide us as human beings and to dehumanize us. Would you agree that is really what's happening?
Yes, I think that We have also other countries which are fighting for their sovereignty in these very hard circumstances. Maybe Turkey is also fighting for sovereignty, and China as well, and some other Eastern countries, Asian countries, and Latin American countries as well. The people in the US are also fighting against this system, the people everywhere. But if we speak about the leader, I think the Russia is only one who is directly in fight against these structures, and Russia is the only one who can fight for their future, and I will say us future, because for Serbia, the Russia is only hope that we will exist in the future with these all human and cultural and traditional values. This is only we hope on Russia and God as well. So Russia is only country which is really fighting. She is fighting in the field as well. Different countries like China, like they're fighting maybe on the economic field or different, but not on the this battlefield. And Russia is the only one which is really fighting. And the same, maybe the similar situation was in the Second World War. We have more than 27 millions of Soviet people died for the peace, and for they fight this Nazism in the Second World War. And different people in different countries didn't have so big role, but the problem is that the world forgot this role of Soviet Union or today's Russia after the Second World War, and it is necessary to mention this. So I can agree with you.
Well, Dragana, I want to thank you for coming on the show tonight and sharing what you have personally experienced in your country. And I hope to be able to interview some of the other people that were on that conference with us. I'm going to be interviewing the woman from Armenia, Natalia,
Natalia,
next week. She has an incredible story to tell as well. So thank you so much. We are united in the quest for peace, sovereignty, and
yes.
solidarity.
Yes, thank you very much, dear Regis. It was my pleasure to speak with you and to share these different problems. And yes, I support totally. We need to fight together for our future and for our basic values, human values. Thank you very much.